Angela Brooks? The voice was cold and Kyle's. I need you in my office now. The tone made her heart skip. When she walked into the office, Kyle was waiting behind his desk, his arms folded, a smirk pulling at his lips. 2 security guards stood behind him. The lights were dim. The rain tapping the window sounded almost like a countdown. Sit down, he ordered. Angela hesitated. What's this about? Kyle slid a report across the desk, a missing diamond earring from a VIP guest suite. You cleaned that room this morning, didn't you? Angela blinked. Yes, sir, but save it, he gestured to the guards. Check her bag, her heart dropped. What? You can't. One of the guards stepped forward, eyes apologetic but firm. Ma'am, please. Angela handed over her cleaning bag, hands trembling. She watched as the guard opened it, pulled back a folded towel. And there it was, a diamond earring. She staggered back, shaking her head violently. No, no, no. That ain't mine. I swear on my son, I ain't never seen that before. Kyle leaned back, crossing his arms. Sure you haven't. Her eyes filled with tears. You think I'd risk my job over some earring? You know me, Mr. Kyle. You know how hard I work. He laughed, low, cruel. You people always got excuses. The words sliced through her like a blade. You people. The same phrase she'd heard too many times in too many places. She felt her knees go weak. Say that again, she whispered. Kyle smirked. You heard me. Angela's voice cracked. You can't talk to me like that. Oh, I can, he said, leaning closer. Because you're done here. He looked at the guards. Escort her out. Angela's legs refused to move. I didn't take it, she whispered, voice trembling. Please, please, I didn't. But no one was listening. As they led her through the hall, other employees peeked out from doorways, whispering, watching. She caught glimpses of faces she'd worked beside for years, now looking at her like a stranger. It was the longest walk of her life. She passed the lobby. Tourists sipping coffee, businessmen scrolling their phones. Nobody saw her pain. Nobody cared, until one man did. The janitor near the elevators, Ethan still undercover, looked up and froze. His heart slammed in his chest. What's going on? Kyle walked by with his usual arrogance, caught her stealing. We're handling it. Angela stopped for just a second, meeting Ethan's eyes. They were full of shame, confusion, and something else, desperation. I didn't do it, she whispered. He believed her instantly. Ethan followed them quietly, keeping distance. Something wasn't right. He'd checked the camera feeds just an hour ago. Angela hadn't even been near that guest room after the inspection. Something clicked in his mind. He rushed to the security room, adrenaline kicking in. Pull up footage from 9:04, he told the night tech. Last night and this morning. The guy frowned. Can't. Cameras glitched around 6 a.m. Ethan's heart sank. He knew who had access to those cameras. Kyle. He scrolled through system logs until he saw it. 5:57 a.m., camera disabled. Keycard ID, K. Lewis, his jaw clenched. You son of a... He sprinted down the hall, heart pounding, just as the guards were escorting Angela out through the service door. Rain poured outside. Wait, he shouted. Everyone turned. Ethan pulled off his janitor badge and threw it on the floor. Let her go, Kyle sneered. Excuse me? Ethan stepped closer, eyes blazing. You heard me, let her go. Kyle laughed, the sound sharp and ugly. What, you her boyfriend now? Ethan's voice thundered through the hallway. I'm your boss. The entire staff froze. The guards stopped in their tracks. Angela blinked in disbelief. What? Ethan's voice was shaking now, but not from fear. From rage. My name's Ethan Walker. My father built this hotel, and I've been undercover for the past month watching how my employees treat people who make this place run. Kyle stammered, color draining from his face. Sir, I didn't... Save it, Ethan snapped. He turned to the guards. Search his office now. Kyle tried to stop them, but it was too late. 10 minutes later, they came back with a velvet jewelry pouch stuffed in his desk drawer, the missing earrings match still inside. Angela gasped, tears spilling over. She covered her mouth, her body shaking. Ethan glared at Kyle. You planted it on her, didn't you? Kyle didn't answer. He just looked down, defeated. You humiliated her in front of everyone. For what? Ethan shouted. Because she's black? Because you thought she wouldn't fight back. Kyle tried to speak, but Ethan wasn't done. "You're fired. Effective immediately. And I swear to God, if I ever see you near this hotel again, I'll have you arrested for harassment and falsifying evidence." Kyle was escorted out as the staff watched in stunned silence. Angela sank to the floor, sobbing, half relief, half exhaustion. Ethan knelt beside her, his voice soft now. "I'm so sorry. I should have stepped in sooner." She shook her head. "You didn't know." He met her eyes. "That's the problem. I should have, for a moment." The only sound was the rain beating against the glass doors. Then Angela whispered the same 3 words she'd said that morning, the ones that had made him freeze on the camera feed. "I forgive you," Ethan blinked, stunned. "You what?" She looked at him with tired eyes. "You can't heal hate with more hate. Somebody's got to break the chain." Those words hit him like thunder. He'd gone undercover to find broken systems, but what he found was something deeper. Grace. Angela stood up slowly, wiping her tears. "Now if you'll excuse me," she said softly. "I got a floor to finish." The staff looked at her like they were seeing her for the first time. Ethan watched her walk away, every step steady, strong. The sound of her mop on the marble floor echoed like a heartbeat. Quiet, constant, unshakable. For once, everyone heard it. The next morning, the sun cut through the storm clouds like a quiet promise. The hotel lobby, once full of whispers and judgment, now felt different, heavy with guilt, yet touched by something rare. Truth. Angela showed up for her shift right on time. Same uniform, same cart. But this time, heads turned for a different reason. People didn't look through her anymore. They looked at her. As she walked by, one of the bellboys mumbled, "Miss Angela, I'm real sorry for what went down yesterday." She smiled gently. "Ain't your fault, baby. We all learn somehow." She pushed her cart down the hall, her movements calm, precise. To her, cleaning wasn't just work, and it was dignity. It was proof that no matter how ugly the world could get, she could still make her little corner of it shine. Ethan watched her from his office window. He'd stayed up all night thinking about his staff, his privilege, and that single phrase that shook him to his core. You can't heal hate with more hate. He called an emergency meeting that morning. Every employee, from the front desk clerks to the cooks, filled the conference room. Angela hesitated at the door, but Ethan waved her in. When the room fell silent, he took the mic. "Yesterday I saw something that broke my heart," he began. "A woman who's given this place 20 years of her life was humiliated because someone thought her skin color made her guilty." Nobody moved. The air was thick, he continued, voice cracking slightly. "That ends today. Not just here, not ever again in this hotel." He looked directly at Angela. "We're starting new policies. Fair treatment, equal opportunity, and zero tolerance for discrimination. But I know paperwork alone won't fix what's broken. It starts with us. How we look at each other when no one's watching." Angela's eyes glistened, but she said nothing. She didn't need to. Her silence spoke louder than any applause. After the meeting, employees approached her. Some hugged her. Others just whispered quiet apologies. A few cried. The ripple effect was real. Later that afternoon, local news picked up the story. Hotel owner goes undercover, exposes racism. Employees' forgiveness inspires change. The clip went viral within hours. People online were stunned not by the cruelty, they'd seen that before, but by Angela's grace. Comments poured in. "We need more Angelas in this world." That woman's strength hit me deep. She didn't fight with hate. She fought with heart. The hotel started a foundation in her name. The Angela Brooks Initiative, to provide scholarships for young hospitality workers of color. Angela didn't want fame. She just wanted fairness. One night, as she finished her shift, Ethan caught her by the elevator. "You ever think about retiring?" he asked, half smiling. Angela chuckled softly. "And do what? Sit around and watch daytime TV? Nah, I'm good. I still got rooms to clean, Mr. Walker." He nodded, smiling back. "You changed me, Angela." She tapped his arm. "No, honey. You changed yourself. I just gave you a little nudge." As the elevator doors closed, she whispered to herself, "One day, maybe the world will see us for who we really are, not what they assume." Outside, the city lights shimmered, reflecting off wet pavement. The world hadn't suddenly become perfect. Racism hadn't magically disappeared. But one act of courage, one moment of grace, had sparked a conversation that reached far beyond those hotel walls. And maybe that was enough for now. Because sometimes, the most powerful revolutions don't start with shouting. They start with forgiveness whispered through tears. The sound of a shattered glass echoed through the grand marble hallway of the Hilton Crestwood Hotel, slicing through the quiet hum of morning like a scream. A maid froze mid-step, her gloved hands trembling as the pieces scattered across the floor. "Ma'am, I'm so sorry," she whispered, her voice cracking. And those 3 words that followed made the man watching from the security camera feed forget how to breathe. He leaned closer to the monitor, eyes narrowing, heart pounding. Outside, rain hammered the glass roof, thunder rumbling like a warning. The camera zoomed in, catching her face, tired eyes, shaking lips, and that look of someone carrying a secret too heavy for her shoulders. The man in the tailored suit, the hotel's owner, though no one knew it, reached for the mic to speak but stopped himself. Something about her tone hit different. This wasn't just another employee's bad day. It felt personal. Too personal. He didn't know it yet, but those few words were about to drag him into a story of racism, dignity, and redemption that would turn his whole empire upside down. The glass kept rolling across the floor, the reflection catching the glow of the chandeliers, like it was trying to show the truth everyone had been too blind to see. Her name was Angela Brooks, a 42-year-old single mother from Atlanta, Georgia, who'd moved to Chicago chasing better pay and a fresh start. Every morning before sunrise, she'd lace up her worn-out sneakers, pull her faded blue uniform over her shoulders, and catch the 5:10 a.m. train to the Hilton Crestwood, a hotel where everything sparkled except the lives of those who kept it clean. Angela had been working there for almost 6 years, and in that time, she'd learned how to smile through the hurt. The guests barely saw her, and the ones who did rarely looked her in the eye. She wasn't bitter, not exactly, and just tired. Tired of scrubbing marble floors that gleamed brighter than her paycheck. Tired of being yes ma'am polite while people acted like she was invisible. But if there was one thing she never lost, it was her grace. The other maids admired her for it, the way she could joke through the worst shifts, saying things like, "Girl, if they paid me by the attitude I clean up, I'd be rich by now." They laughed. Even though the truth stung a little, at home life wasn't any easier. Her teenage son Malik was smart, funny, and restless, the kind of kid who could either change the world or get swallowed by it. He'd been suspended twice for talking back to teachers who didn't like his tone. Angela saw herself in him, proud, quick-witted, and tired of being judged for the color of his skin. Most nights, after her shift, Angela would sit by the window with a cup of coffee, staring at the city lights and praying, not for money, for dignity, for safety, for just one break to go her way. She didn't know that break, or maybe the storm before it, was already coming. On the other side of town, in a penthouse overlooking the skyline, Ethan Walker, 37, sat at a desk full of papers he never actually read. He'd inherited the Hilton Crestwood from his late father, a man whose motto was, "Keep the money clean, and the people working." Ethan had tried to be different, to bring compassion into the business, but lately, something felt off. Guest complaints had gone up. Turnover was high. And somewhere deep down, Ethan knew his management wasn't seeing the real problem. They were all about efficiency metrics and guest satisfaction surveys, but no one was asking how the staff felt. Ethan had a reputation for being the quiet boss, the kind who signed checks but stayed out of sight. But after a few too many reports about underperforming staff, most of them from the cleaning department, something in him snapped. He decided to go undercover. The plan was simple: shave his beard, trade his suit for janitor clothes, and walk the halls as one of them. He wanted to see the truth firsthand, how people acted when the boss wasn't around. He didn't expect to meet Angela. The first day he noticed how she worked, steady, patient, humming under her breath. The other maids followed her lead, but he also noticed the way guests brushed past her like she wasn't there, or how a front desk supervisor spoke to her with the kind of tone that made his stomach twist. There was a moment, small but sharp. A guest complained about his room being too dusty, though Angela had just cleaned it. The manager, a young white guy named Kyle, looked at her and said, "You people need to do better." The way he said "you people" made Ethan's jaw tighten. Angela just nodded, eyes low, and said softly, "Yes, sir." That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about that look in her eyes, not defeat but exhaustion, like someone who'd swallowed their pride 1,000 times just to keep food on the table. He started noticing more. Jokes behind her back, unfair schedules, even guests making comments like, "Don't send that black maid again. She makes me uncomfortable." Every time it happened, Angela took a deep breath and carried on, not because she didn't care, but because she couldn't afford to break. Still, there was something about her presence that demanded respect, even if the world refused to give it. And when Ethan overheard her talking to another maid about Malik, about how she prayed every day he'd make it home safe from school, he realized this wasn't just about hotel politics. It was about a system, a quiet, constant weight pressing on people like her, invisible to men like him. He started to wonder, if he hadn't gone undercover, would he have ever seen it? Would anyone? As the rain beat against the hotel windows that night, Ethan made a decision. He wouldn't just watch. He'd find out how deep it went, even if it meant exposing people who'd worked for his family for years, because something told him the truth was uglier than he imagined. And Angela's story was only the beginning. It started small, the kind of moments people brush off because they don't want to make trouble. But trouble was already there, just wearing a uniform and a smile. Angela was polishing mirrors on the 12th floor when she overheard a guest call down to the front desk. "Hey, that maid you sent it, she's nice and all, but can you send someone lighter? I just feel more comfortable that way." The line went quiet. The clerk hesitated for half a beat, then said, "Of course, sir. I'll send someone else right away." Angela pretended not to hear, but her reflection in the mirror caught her pain. A flicker of disbelief, then the practiced smile of someone used to being erased. She just kept cleaning like always. Ethan, still undercover, stood a few doors down, sweeping the hallway. He'd heard every word. It made his stomach knot. He wanted to step in, to say something, but he didn't. He told himself he was just observing, collecting information, but deep down he knew that silence made him part of the problem. That night, back in the staff locker room, the tension hung heavy. 2 new maids, young girls from Alabama, were whispering about how Kyle, the manager, kept assigning Angela the dirtiest rooms. "It's 'cause she don't talk back," one of them said. "He don't like the loud ones. Thinks we should all just keep our heads down and be grateful." Angela laughed it off like she always did, but Ethan saw her hands shaking as she folded her rag. "Y'all don't worry about me," she said, trying to sound strong. "I've been through worse. This ain't gonna break me." But she was breaking, and just slow enough for no one to notice. A week later, Ethan saw something that flipped his stomach. He was cleaning near the lobby when a family checked in, a white couple with 2 kids. Angela greeted them with her usual warm smile. The mother smiled back politely, but the father's face tightened. When Angela reached for their bags, he snatched them away. "We got it," he said sharply. Then, under his breath but loud enough for her to hear, "Ain't right they got y'all handling people's personal stuff." Angela froze, nodded, and stepped aside. The man walked off like nothing happened. Ethan couldn't stand it anymore. "Sir, she was just helping," he said, still in disguise. The man turned around, gave him a once-over, and scoffed. "Mind your business, man. You ain't management." Ethan swallowed hard and let him go. He wanted to rip off his disguise, shout that he was management, but that would ruin everything. And maybe that was the real point of going undercover, seeing how helpless it felt to be invisible. That night, Ethan couldn't shake it. He thought about Angela's calm face and Malik's picture taped inside her locker. He remembered how she'd once said, "You learn to smile through it, 'cause if you don't, they say you got an attitude." That line haunted him. Flashback, Angela 6 years earlier. It was her first week at the Hilton. She'd just moved from Atlanta after her husband's accident. The manager back then had told her, "We're like family here." But that family didn't have her back when a guest accused her of stealing a bracelet she never even saw. Security searched her bag, her locker, even made her empty her pockets. They found nothing, but nobody apologized. The next day, she was assigned to clean the bathrooms. Just until things cool down, they said. That was the day Angela stopped trusting anyone who called her family. Back in the present, Ethan started digging deeper. Late at night when the hotel emptied out, he'd sneak into the security office and review footage. He noticed patterns, the same people getting the worst shifts, the same names written up for attitude, and always the same tone in Kyle's emails, polite on the surface, poisoned underneath. He even found an email where Kyle complained about diversity hires slowing down workflow. Ethan's hands clenched so tight the paper almost tore. He confronted him the next day, still undercover near testing the waters. "Man, you ever think some folks here get treated different?" he asked casually. Kyle laughed. "Different? Nah, man, some just don't hustle as hard. You know how it is." Ethan forced a smile, pretending to agree, but inside something boiled. Days passed. Angela's body started showing the toll. Dark circles under her eyes, swollen hands, a cough that wouldn't quit. Malik noticed too. "Ma, they work you like that 'cause they think you won't fight back," he told her one night over dinner. "You should say something," Angela smiled faintly. "Baby, I got bills." Saying something don't pay him. "But I said drop it, Malik." Her voice cracked, not from anger but from fear. She didn't want him to see her powerless. Later that night, she looked at his school photo on the fridge, that same half grin, the spark in his eyes, and whispered, "You gonna be better than me, baby?" "You got to be." The next morning, things escalated. Angela came into work to find a note on her locker. "You people should be grateful you even got a job." She froze. Everyone saw it, but no one said a word. Kyle walked in, saw the note, and shrugged. "Probably just a prank. Don't make a big deal out of it." Angela tore the note down quietly, holding back tears. Ethan watched from across the room, heart pounding. That night, he reviewed security footage again. The cameras didn't show who left the note. Someone had switched them off for 5 minutes. But Ethan noticed something else. Kyle's keycard had been used to access the locker room right before it appeared. He knew what that meant. But he wasn't ready to act, and not yet. He wanted proof. Real proof. Over the next week, things spiraled. Kyle started writing Angela up for petty reasons. Late by 2 minutes. Improper towel fold. Guest dissatisfaction. It was obvious he was setting her up. Angela tried to brush it off, but everyone could see the change. She didn't hum anymore. Her movements were slower, heavier. It was like she was carrying the weight of a world that refused to let her breathe. Ethan, meanwhile, was running out of patience. And excuses. He started recording everything. Staff meetings, hallway conversations, even snippets of gossip in the break room. What he was building wasn't just evidence. It was a mirror of what racism looks like when no one's watching. And every time he replayed the footage of Angela smiling through humiliation, he heard her voice echo in his mind. You learn to smile through it. The breaking point came one rainy Thursday evening. A guest reported that her diamond earring was missing after housekeeping. Guess who had cleaned the room? Angela. Kyle called her into the office in front of everyone, waving a report like a verdict. "We can do this the easy way or the hard way," he said. "Just tell me where it is." Angela's voice trembled, but her words were steady. "I didn't take nothing." Kyle leaned closer. "You people always say that." The room went silent. Even the air conditioner seemed to stop. Ethan, still undercover, felt the blood drain from his face. He wanted to scream, to throw his badge on the desk to tell them who he really was, but something told him to wait just a little longer. He needed everyone to see the truth unfold, unfiltered, because once it did, there'd be no going back. Outside, thunder cracked again, same as the night it all began. And somewhere in that sound, Ethan knew. The truth was about to explode. The storm outside had barely settled when everything inside the Hilton Crestwood came crashing down. The accusations spread through the halls like wildfire. Angela stole from a guest. By noon, everyone knew. The whispers, the stares, the pitying looks that burned worse than hate. Angela was called into the manager's office again, only this time security was there. Her hands trembled as she sat across from Kyle, her voice barely a whisper. "I told you I didn't take nothing, sir." Kyle leaned back in his chair, smug. "Then you won't mind if we search your things again." The room fell silent as one of the guards placed Angela's cleaning bag on the table and began to unzip it. For a moment, everyone held their breath, and there it was, a diamond earring sitting neatly on top of her folded towels. Angela gasped, shaking her head violently. "That ain't mine." I ain't never seen that before. But no one listened. The guards looked at Kyle, who smiled faintly, the kind of smile that said, "Case closed." Ethan's chest tightened. He'd seen enough. He stormed into the room, pulling off his janitor badge and tossing it on the table. "You're damn right it's not hers," he snapped. The room froze. Kyle blinked. "Who the hell are you?" Ethan's voice was steady but cold. "I'm Ethan Walker. I own this hotel." The silence was so heavy it felt like the air itself had stopped. Angela's eyes widened. The guards exchanged nervous glances. Kyle went pale. "Wait, this is a misunderstanding," he stammered. Ethan stepped forward, eyes burning. "I've been watching everything. The notes. The write-ups. The way you've been treating her. You planted that earring, didn't you?" Kyle's mouth opened, then closed. "You don't have proof," he said weakly. Ethan reached into his pocket, pulling out his phone. "Actually, I do." He pressed play. The sound of the security footage filled the room. Kyle sneaking into the supply room late at night, slipping the earring into Angela's cleaning bag, glancing over his shoulder. The timestamp was crystal clear. Angela covered her mouth, tears streaming down her cheeks. The other maids in the hall had gathered around the doorway, watching in stunned silence. Kyle tried to speak, but Ethan cut him off. "You're done here. Pack your things and get out now." Security didn't wait for another word. They escorted Kyle out as the rest of the staff whispered in disbelief. Angela sat there, shaking, staring at the earring like it was some cursed object. "I told y'all," she whispered through tears. "I told y'all I ain't no thief." Ethan knelt beside her. "I know, and I'm so damn sorry it took me this long to see what's been happening here." She wiped her face, forcing a small, tired smile. "You saw it now, that's what matters." But Ethan knew it wasn't that simple. Seeing wasn't fixing. The news spread fast. By evening, the staff was buzzing, not about the scandal, but about the truth. For the first time, people talked openly about how things really worked at the Hilton Crestwood. The unfair schedules, the favoritism, the quiet racism that everyone felt, but nobody dared to name. Some of the white employees looked uncomfortable, unsure how to act. A few offered awkward apologies. One of them, a front desk clerk named Jenny, came up to Angela during her break. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "I didn't know." Angela looked at her for a moment, then said, "You knew. You just didn't look." Jenny dropped her gaze, tears welling up. Ethan called an emergency meeting that night. He stood at the front of the break room, not as the boss, but as someone who finally understood what he'd ignored. "I failed this place," he said, voice breaking slightly. "I let a system grow where people like Angela were treated like they didn't matter. That ends today." No one spoke, but everyone listened. He announced new policies: fair scheduling, anonymous complaint channels, diversity training, promotions based on merit, not favoritism. But he knew words alone couldn't undo years of silence. After the meeting, he found Angela in the housekeeping office, folding towels like nothing had happened. "You don't have to stay late," he said gently. She smiled faintly without looking up. "I know, but the towels still need folding." That line hit him harder than any accusation ever could. It was more than duty. It was resilience. A few days later, Angela was sitting at home when Malik came through the door waving his phone. "Ma, you're all over the news," he shouted. Her heart dropped. "What you mean?" He handed her the phone. There it was, a headline on a local site. "Hotel owner exposes racism in his own staff. Housekeeper wrongly accused." The article showed her photo, smiling awkwardly next to Ethan at a press conference. Angela shook her head, overwhelmed. "Lord have mercy," she murmured. Malik grinned. "You a hero now, Ma?" She chuckled softly. "Baby, I don't want to be no hero. I just wanted folks to see me for who I am." He hugged her tight. "They do now." For the first time in years, Angela felt something she'd almost forgotten. Lightness. Back at the hotel, things were changing slowly. The staff treated each other differently. There were still rough edges, still unspoken tension, but something had shifted. Ethan started coming to work in plain clothes, chatting with employees, asking real questions. One day he found Angela humming again in the hallway, that same tune from before. "You sound happier," he said. She smiled. "Just breathing a little easier, that's all." He nodded. "Guess that's a start." Outside, the sun was setting over the Chicago skyline, painting the glass windows gold. For once, everything felt calm, like the city itself was exhaling. But deep down, both Angela and Ethan knew the truth. The fight wasn't over. Not for her, not for Malik, not for anyone still carrying the weight of being unseen. Still, at least now somebody was watching. And this time, not to judge, but to change. It was supposed to be just another rainy Thursday. The hotel lobby smelled of lemon polish and coffee, the usual background hum of suitcases rolling and heels tapping across marble floors. But for Angela Brooks, this day felt different. The air was heavier. Her chest was tight. Something was off. She could feel it in her bones. She was cleaning room 904, humming faintly to calm herself, when the phone on the nightstand rang. She froze. Housekeepers weren't supposed to answer guest phones, but the ring wouldn't stop. Out of habit, she picked it up.